Hi everybody, welcome to our new channel. My name is Jan.
I'm Jackie.
And
this is Lucy.
And that right there is Lucy. So, we wanted to start a new channel because we wanted to get into the RV / see more of United States life. So here we are. It's been a long road. This is our first ever camping trip with the new RV. So it's gone pretty well so far. There's been some tears, mostly by me. I've done a lot of crying the past couple of days. But yeah, we've really enjoyed it so far. So I guess a little bit more about us. We're from Wisconsin, but we will be relocating to Arizona in a couple months in our new rig back there. So stay tuned for more videos like this one as we kind of make our travel down to the southwest and then around the rest of the United States. So we should start with how we got here. I think last year around early June, back when the pandemic was kind of in full swing, we went into Upper Michigan to a campground, into a cabin. We rented a cabin for the weekend, and it was very remote. It was probably 50 miles to the nearest hospital or a town of more than 1,000 people. So we were not expecting much, obviously, to kind of be in the middle of the North Woods, but at the same time, that campground left a lot to be desired. The heat went out pretty much every night in our cabin. We had no running water for a while, so I guess we kind of looked at each other and said, why are we paying for this? Because it was $150, $170 a night. So we saw a lot of RVs on our way up there and kind of back down, and then we were kind of saying, why don't we just do that? We can haul our house with us wherever we want to go. So from there, we started looking around and kind of getting into the whole RV research phase, seeing what would work for us, what would we need to do, obviously what kind of RV we want. So again, it was in the middle of summer, in the middle of the pandemic, and everybody else had the same idea as us. So we were competing with pretty much everybody to get our hands on an RV. So I think pretty quickly we realized that we don't really need a monstrous, ginormous rig. Just something big enough to, I guess, be comfortable for us. I think a lot of people make the mistake of starting off with a rig that's way too big for them to handle. It's always better to start small, I think, and kind of get used to it, start backing into spots and just kind of taking care of everything around the campsite, things like that. So I think what we initially settled on, I think, was a Forest River.
Yeah.
I think it was a Gray Wolf or a Forest River, something like that, and it was around 25 feet. But then we started researching more into the quality control, and I guess, this is not a knock against Gray Wolf. I'm sure everybody else has nothing but good experiences, but the online forums always tend to be filled with people that like to complain. So I'm sure it was probably skewed out of proportion a little bit, but some of the issues that people were running into with that brand kind of scared us off, and we kind of said, well, we don't want to be spending all this money and have to deal with all these problems. So we kind of started looking at some of the more not upscale manufacturers, but maybe more reputable manufacturers that have a good reputation. And we didn't want to go as extreme as something as an Airstream, just because those are so expensive. But we also didn't want to go kind of bottom of the barrel, the Jaycos and Gray Wolves and things like that. Again, that's not knocking them. I'm sure they're fine. It's just we were okay with spending a little bit more money to get more quality, because we don't like when things break down on us. That's kind of annoying. So we settled on Winnebago, which a lot of people seem to like. Not very many complaints, and they kind of seem to be a smaller manufacturer. You don't see as many of them out on the road. They seem to take a little bit more time, and kind of how everything is assembled. You know, everything is inside is thought out very nicely. They seem to use quality parts. So we settled on a 22 foot. It's a 2201 DS, if anybody's curious. 2017. And as soon as we kind of had that picked out, we started looking around and shopping around and seeing where we could find one. And it took us probably, I want to say, 2 months?
Yeah, it's at least 2 or 3.
2 or 3 months before we actually found one that was kind of not outrageously priced and seemed to be in good condition. So this one was in Indianapolis, and pretty much as soon as we found it, we called and put in a deposit. I think that was on a Thursday, and Friday afternoon I was already driving down to hopefully, go pick it up, take a look at it, and hopefully pick it up. So everything looked good, so we hauled it home. So that was probably last October 2020, and then we spent the next 8 months or so during the wonderful Wisconsin winters
Researching, stocking up.
yeah, basically doing the whole self-taught how-to, watching tons of YouTube videos from some of the big channels like The Long Honeymoon and Keep Your Daydream and a few others too that are our favorites. So kind of following their examples and writing down furiously all their notes and tips and tricks they were writing down. So we like to do stuff and have stuff researched before we head out. At least I do. So that's where we are today. We are in Long Lake State Park in beautiful Kettle Moraine in the middle of Wisconsin. This is probably the first weekend where it's been above 50 degrees in mid-May. So again, wonderful Wisconsin weather.
And we decided to come in on a Wednesday, so that way, we're fairly new at learning how to do the dump station and the water, and that way we wouldn't have a big crowd watching us back in, because it took us a couple tries.
Yeah, so we definitely wanted to get all of those things done and kind of start learning that stuff, because you can watch as many videos as you want about how to use the dump station and how to hook stuff up and do the fresh water fill and all that, but it's not the same as actually doing it. So my nightmare was that we would be at the dump station and there'd be a line of 12 RVs behind us while we're trying to figure stuff out. So, which that can happen even on a busy Sunday morning when everybody's leaving, but it's usually pretty quick. So that's why we kind of decided to do it in the off part of the week, I guess. So yeah, everything's gone pretty well. There's definitely been some lessons learned, like I mentioned before. I've cried a lot. So yeah, I've shed many a tear. I think one of the lessons that we learned is always apologize in advance for what the things that you're going to say when you are backing the camper up into the spot. It's always good to just get a preemptive, "I'm sorry, honey, I didn't mean to yell at you. I'm just trying to get this thing parked so that way we can unpack." So that was definitely a lesson learned. Another lesson learned was make sure you have enough space on the side of your RV if it has a pop-out. Otherwise,
yeah, that was my bad.
Otherwise you might have the pop-out run into the electrical stand. So that was another lesson learned. We didn't actually do any damage, but they definitely lightly touched. So I just want to go on record that no permanent damage was done, but there was definitely...
And one thing that's really helpful is having walkie-talkies. 'Cause we didn't have our walkie-talkies on at that point.
Yes.
So I didn't hear him yell stop, and he had a knock on the side of the trailer, and eventually I heard them stop just in time. But
yeah,
if we would have had our walkie-talkies on, we could have probably avoided that.
that the walkie-talkies definitely help. You know, when you're backing in the trailer or just even doing stuff around the campsite. You know, if you're on like doing the pop out, if you know one person's outside, the other person's inside, and you want them to stop or do something else. So it's always good to communicate. We've seen many people just shouting at each other when they're trying to back in the trailer using sticks, and I guess you know that kind of helps for you know maneuvering around. But I think nothing beats a walkie-talkie. So.
Well, we found out how big our water tank was.
Oh yeah.
So that was we had to pack up and go and get some water again because it only lasts us about a day.
2 days.
2 days. Well, maybe a day and a half because we were washing a lot of, you know, because this is our first time here, so we had to wash some extra dishes that we normally wouldn't have to. And
we were able to stretch it for 2 days. So last night, in the middle of the night, I was sitting outside with a couple of 7-gallon freshwater tanks and pumping them by hand into our freshwater tank to make sure that we have enough water in the morning before we went back to the dump station and refilled and emptied our tanks. So we learned we can make it 2 days. I'm sure I know that, you know, for the hardcore boondockers and dry campers, 2 days is nothing. But again, we're kind of new at this, so at this point we're just trying to figure out how long all this stuff lasts. Our freshwater tank is 45 gallons, and I think our gray tank is 40. It's right around 40, and I think our black water tank is about 30. So neither of those were full, but we definitely needed more fresh water, and I think that just comes from us not being used to kind of, you know, conserving water. But even with that, I think 2 days is pretty good for our first try. So we should be good for the rest of the trip because we are leaving tomorrow. So next up on our list of camping to do, I guess we have one more trip in Wisconsin for Jackie's birthday. We are going to Chute Pond, which is in about 2 hours north of where we are right now. Going to be spending some time up there with family, and then that's just a quick weekend trip just to kind of celebrate over Memorial Day, which also happens to be Jackie's birthday that weekend. And then after that, in a couple of weeks, we are packing up everything and like I said, taking this big rig, big to us, and hauling it down from Wisconsin to Arizona, where we will be living starting at the end of June. So many more videos to come, I think, from our adventures around the country. It's not going to be all just RV, you know, we pulled our RV here and we set up camp here and this is what it's like, which we will have some of that, obviously, but it'll also be you know, other travels and other trips and things like that. We just kind of wanted to document everything and give everybody our thoughts. So
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. If you like this, click and... No, we're not going to do that. Hope to see you guys next time.